Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Sober Bliss Meets. Today I am joined by the wonderful Gillian Duncan, who is going to talk to us about alcohol and sleep. And Gillian has a massive wealth of experience in this topic. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Gillian. First of all, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks so much for inviting me to chat with you today. I'm so excited to be talking about this topic with you because I do realise the importance that sleep does have and the effect that alcohol has on sleep. So I'm delighted to be chatting about that today. So my name is Gillian Duncan and I am the author of the book Sleep, Cure Your Insomnia, Improve Your Health and Feel Better Now. And I wrote that book because of my own experiences with insomnia over the years. All different experiences, so not just one period of my life where I've not been able to sleep, there's been many. So I have learned an awful lot. And I am also the author and the host and the editor over at clarityjunction.com, which is a website for women. And we also have a podcast, which I'm delighted that Gail has been interviewed on, which I'm also pleased that we've had that conversation. So that's a bit about me. My background is in biomedical sciences. So I researched into neurotoxicology and pathology for a while. I've also got a bit of background in psychology. I moved on in life and I trained to be a meditation and yoga teacher. So I've also got that. I've got a huge interest in alternative therapies. I do have some qualifications in alternative therapies, and also I am a trained life coach. So that is my background.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So where does like sleep come into all of this? Obviously, you mentioned briefly before that you've had your own struggles with insomnia in the past.
Yeah.
So obviously you've managed to do such a lot with your life, but you said that the insomnia had a massive effect as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It did, and it really probably started when I was in my teens, but I didn't actually realise how big an effect the insomnia had on my life until I was a lot older and I was running a retail business, and I had two children, so I had my babies back to back. There's only 18 months between them. And it wasn't until they were at school by the time that I realised that my health had been affected by sleep loss. And the trigger point, and this sounds crazy because I've been through a lot of things in my past before then, with chronic illness and just other situations with anxiety and withdrawal, which I'm happy to speak about as well. Different things in my past had stopped me from sleeping, but it wasn't until, and this sounds crazy, it wasn't until I started to want to lose weight. I realised I'd put weight on and I couldn't shift it, and I didn't know why. I thought I was ill. I thought something had gone wrong inside. And I was watching my diet and I was exercising every single day. I was doing everything that that you were supposed to do. I certainly was not eating anything like cheese, no chocolate, no chips, anything that you could put weight on with. And of course that includes alcohol as well. I was not drinking any alcohol. I was only drinking water. So it did sound like a bit of a depressing time, but actually I enjoyed doing that. I felt like I was completely cleansed at that time. I felt really, really healthy. But having feeling really, really healthy, I still wasn't losing weight. And I started sort of looking into things and the reasons why you could gain weight and keep weight on. And one of them was sleep deprivation. And that had one of those sort of light bulb moments for me, because I hadn't slept maybe a full night's sleep for years since my babies were born.
Really?
Because when they got up in the night, I got up in the night and I didn't go back to sleep. So that for me had got into a really bad habit, I'd been sort of surviving on maybe 3 hours of sleep a night for all those years. And yeah, exactly. So anyway, I was going, how, yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just don't know how I functioned. And I didn't function very well. Looking back, I didn't function very well. I was completely on the line. I was throwing myself into my business. I was completely burnt out.
Yeah.
And that's why my body was telling me that something was wrong. And it was. I was needing my sleep. So anyway, to cut the story, I started to focus in on my sleep. You know, things in my life had been started to sort of get better. I was starting to become more in control of things. My sleep started to improve. And within a few weeks of getting my sleep back on track, and that's all it took this time. I mean, because there was nothing really else in my life that was majorly influenced in it, apart from my bad habits. Then a few weeks later, I noticed my weight just started to drop off. And I wasn't doing anything different with my diet or exercise. I was still keeping that up. Nothing else had changed in my life. The only thing that had changed was my sleep and that habit. So that's when I realized that sleep was hugely important. So not just for the way that you feel, you know, and your sort of mental awareness during the day and how grumpy you are, it actually had a knock-on physical effect.
Wow.
So that's why I started looking at it more.
Inspiring. Wow. So why is sleep so important then?
Gosh, there's a loads of reasons why. Sleep mainly is that time, as you know, when you are allowing yourself to relax. And many of us don't allow ourselves that time. We think it's one of those optional extras, and it really isn't. It's not part of self-care. It's actually part of your needs.
Yeah.
You know, an absolute need to stay healthy and to stay alive. Your body needs that time. So basically, when you go to sleep at night, you are allowing your body to rest, restore, and rebalance. So if you think about it, during the day, you are using up chemicals in your body. Your body's all made up of different signals, and all those signals are chemicals that trigger off one thing after another. And those chemicals are made up of the things that we eat, the things that we consume. And that's all very well. So we can have all those building blocks in place.
Yeah.
But if we don't allow our body the time to build the blocks together and form the chemicals that we need, then it's not going to happen. So we're going to be really running out and really low on those. And also we're going to be triggering off other things in our body as well that we shouldn't be. So the signals are going to get all confused. So there's also the fact that when we rest, we are able to rest the other things in our body, like our muscles. So if you think about it, our heart beats 24/7. We don't think about that. We take it for granted. All these systems that go on in our body day in, day out happen without our second thought. It's just a natural process. We just expect it to happen. We don't really think of that, you know, these organs and these muscles actually need to recuperate. So by giving yourself that time to rest, you are allowing, for example, your heart to beat slower, because you don't need to pump the blood around your body just as much as you do during the day. It's not as needed. So you're allowing your heart to relax. You're allowing your digestive system to do what it needs to do, because it goes through a certain process at night. You're, as I say, allowing the right chemicals in your body to come and go and to get built and replenished and restored as they should be naturally. And you're allowing your body to keep in sync with a natural rhythm and routine, which is so important. A lot of people think it's all woo-woo, you know, we got to sleep in time, and, you know, we've got to be in alignment with the moon or whatever it is. But actually, we are natural creatures. We are, you know, we're animals at the end of the day, and we work in sync with the world that we're on, and our own body has its own natural clock. It needs to, it just needs to work in that rhythm, or we end up having some major problems.
That makes so much sense. I never thought about it that way before, but it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it certainly
yeah,
does. Yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh. So what happens to us then if we don't get enough sleep? Because I know, like, in today's society, we have to do as much as we can, fit as much in. Often people, think of sleep as you just said, a luxury, and
Yeah.
some people even kind of brag about how much sleep they don't need
Yeah.
to do all of the things. And I can't understand that at all, because I am a huge fan of sleep. When I was growing up, whenever anybody was ill in the family, then my dad always said, right, go to bed
Yeah.
and you'll feel a lot better. And I've kind of carried that on with my kids. And I always try and go to bed early. I mean, I wake up really early as well. But if I don't get, 7, 8 hours sleep a night, then I can really tell. Just in myself, I don't focus, I don't feel 100%. But, it can have a lot more serious consequences, can't it, if we don't get enough sleep? So what
Oh,
happens
absolutely.
to us?
Yeah, sure. So 7 to 8 hours sleep is really sort of the recommended amount of sleep that we need each night.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't get the right amount of sleep, we put our body into a stress response.
Right.
So our body is not functioning the way it should. It wants to, replenish and rebuild, like I was saying. It wants to rest. It wants to take that time out. But if we don't allow our bodies to have that time, it's going to have this sort of natural, oh my goodness, something's happened. It goes into some, like fight or flight. I think you probably heard of that response.
Yeah.
So when our bodies feels like it's under attack, or we're scared, or something big happens in life. So you might think of it, that feeling that you get when, I don't know, you've got to talk in front of a whole lot of people, or you have sort of maybe a near miss in the car or something,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody gets poorly or sick. You feel that yourself, and you sort of put up that, I don't know, a sort of instant response that you need to react, and you need to react quickly, and so your body sort of goes into this sort of defensive mechanism, and with that, that's a massive stress response. So with that triggers off other different things and other different sequences, which are not good. And so this can affect things like your heart. So you're not resting. Your heart isn't, constant demand. It's not lowering down your blood pressure. So you're sort of signaling to your body that, the stress, it's a constant loop, one after the other.
Right.
And so you're risking things like heart disease, and you're risking things like stroke. You're risking things like affecting your immune system. That's a huge thing that gets affected by stress. You are risking problems with fertility. You're risking things with your weight, and also type 2 diabetes. That's all linked with sleep deprivation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then, as you were mentioning, things like your own feelings.
Yeah.
So psychologically, you're a little bit unsettled. You can't think straight, really. You're maybe being also clumsy. Really, your coordination goes out the window.
Yeah.
You're like a bear with a sore head. You just don't go near that person without sleep. You sort of avoid them like the plague. It's just, please don't go near them. So that's what you're risking when you don't get enough sleep. You're triggering that stress response. Now, when you trigger that off by not getting enough sleep, it is that sort of vicious circle. Because once you've triggered the stress, you then get stressed because you're stressed. It's just sort of from there. So that's why your dad would be saying, if you're poorly, get to bed, because your body needs that rest in order to relax and to fight whatever is going on in your body at that time. It needs all the reserves it can get, and the least stress that it can get. And people will say, oh, like you mentioned, I live on just a few hours of sleep and I get by and that's fine. And I used to be one of those people. I thought, I don't need sleep. I'm dead. That phrase.
Yeah.
I don't need sleep. I'll catch up later. I'll catch up at the weekends. And what they're doing is they're just basically initiating a stress response, and it's sooner or later it will catch up with them. And many people also think that if they sleep so little during the week, they'll catch up with sleep at the weekends, or they'll wait until a holiday and then they'll just sort of sleep the whole time. Yeah.
Can I ask you that? Can you catch up on your sleep?
No. Well, you can catch in the sense that you can sleep, but the problem arises when you have triggered the stress response. Okay, so you've gone the whole week completely stressed, not functioning the way you should. Your body's struggling to cope. You might not realize it, just like I didn't, until I realized that it was causing my weight gain. You might not actually know that the sleep loss is affecting you that way. And so you've got that stress response. Then at the weekend you think, well, I'll sleep in. So you try to sleep in. A lot of the times you can't, because maybe you're used to waking up at certain times, but you'll maybe try to sleep more at the weekends. And your body might feel relaxed by the time the weekend's over, and you'll go into Monday, go back to work or wherever you're doing, go back into the routine of only sleeping a few hours. You're triggering the stress response again. So it's, as I say, you just have this sort of cycle going on and on and on. And once that is triggered, it's really, really hard to stop. I mean, you know what that's like when you feel anxious or stressed. You can't just, somebody says, oh, calm down. You can't just calm down. There's a whole lot of things that go on. Your heart might be racing, or your hands might be sweating, you might get a dry mouth. There's a whole lot of things that happen when you become stressed. You can't just stop that. That's up to your body, and it takes time to hit everything.
Yeah, so you can kind of get back and catch up, but you have to do it over a period of time, not just Saturday, have a lie-in on a Saturday.
I mean, when it comes to catching up, I would say that I would try and stick absolutely to a routine every single day, because habits are formed by doing the same thing over and over again. And when it comes to something like sleep, as I mentioned, sleep is something that is a natural rhythm in your body. It has to be that way. The chemicals that work in sleep are triggered by certain things with your daytime and your nighttime and the period that you rest. So in order for that to actually function properly, you need to have a rhythm in your body. It's the circadian rhythm, so you need to allow that to work and function. So if you're constantly messing with that rhythm and that routine, it's never going to be you're never going to get a good quality of sleep at all, and you're always going to be waking up feeling tired and exhausted and moody and grumpy, and eventually you will get telltale signs of ill health. So try not to think of it like catching up, but just try to think of it as establishing a healthy habit of sleep.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. We talk a bit more about how to do that a bit later on.
Sure.
But I wanted to ask you specifically about sleep and alcohol, because a lot of people think that, they can have a glass of wine or two before bed and that will help them sleep. And the people that I work with and talk to find that, well, one of the reasons that they might not be prepared to stop drinking is because they've suffered sleep problems in the past and they think that the alcohol is helping. And also they hear of stories, or they might have experienced it themselves, that when you stop drinking, you suddenly have problems with your sleep. So why is alcohol and sleep not a good mix?
Okay, so I love the comment you made that people will sometimes have a glass or two before going to bed. Now that is, it's a tradition. It's called nightcap. It's it's one of those things that
we dram before.
Yeah, we dram. Yeah, that's it's just gone into our culture really that's what we're doing. It's centuries old. But with our knowledge that we have today, and also with the cleanliness of our water, there's no need to be drinking alcohol before going to bed. Now, alcohol, what I was going to say to you about taking the one or two glasses, when you start with alcohol, as you know, it acts like a stimulant, so it doesn't have that sedative effect straight away. So you get a kick Right, so that first few sips of your drink, you get that buzz, you get that kick. It's like that friend. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm relaxed a bit, but I'm out there and I'm going to talk to people, and if it gives me that sort of, maybe a wee bit of bravery. It gives me that sort of that little lift. Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't want that going to bed. Okay, it's the last thing that you want. So what you'll end up doing is having another drink, because you have to get to that point where you're feeling a wee bit sleepy and a wee bit tired, and now I want to go to bed. Now I want to, now I've had enough. I want to go to bed. And that's one thing, so you have a couple of glasses before you know it. And then the next night you'll maybe do the same, and the next night you'll maybe do the same, because you see that it's made you feel sleepy and you want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But after a while you become tolerant to that amount, and just like everything else, you have to sort of up the dose before you get that feeling of being sleepy. And so that's sort of an increase of alcohol over a period of time to get that desired result.
Yeah.
And you're also forming a habit here. So our body's then saying, right, okay, in order for me to be able to go to sleep, I need to have those drinks. It doesn't, but it's because it's used to it that it wants it.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think. So we're going through that pattern. We've had a few drinks. We're becoming a bit more tolerant to it. We're having more and more, and then we're going to go to bed, and we think that this is fine. So because what happens is we sort of go to sleep pretty much straight away for a lot of us. It gives us that push to go to sleep.
Yeah, or you pass out, depending on.
Yeah, depending on how much you've had. Because I mean, let's face it. By the time you've got to 4 glasses, you've drank a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. So that's enough to make you sleep very soundly. However, it's only for the first few phases of sleep. Now, sleep has a cycle, like everything else. Like naturally in our body, it has a cycle, and that cycle has got 4 main phases attached to it. And the first 3 phases are your sound sleep. So those are the phases in your sleep where you feel that you're knocked out, you don't remember them. When it gets to the last phase, and this is the phase that probably everybody knows about, it's your REM sleep, it's your REM, your rapid eye movement phase. So this is the point where you dream. So that's why everybody knows about it, okay? So that's your last phase. Now, at the end of that last phase, you then go back and start the cycle all over again. And so you'll go back into a deep sleep. So it'll happen maybe about 3 to 5 times per night. And your first phase, your first cycle rather, the REM phase is it could be about 5 minutes. It might not be that long. As the sleep goes on through the night, that REM phase gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you dream for longer and longer. And that phase, that REM phase, is all about what we'd like to think of is sort of a psychological restoration. It's things that you've experienced during the day. It's things that you've sensed during the day. It's all that information that you bring into your body that even you're not aware of it. Anything that's happened, anything that's going to happen, your worries, your thoughts, everything. It's almost like your mind takes that time to sort it out, file it away, put it into its right home, and deal with it. Yeah. So that when you wake up the next day, everybody says if you've got a problem, you'll feel better in the morning. You certainly do if you've had a good sleep, because your mind's had been able to cope with all that information. So REM sleep is so important. REM sleep is such an important part of that cycle. And as I say, we can have that cycle between 3 and 5 times in an evening. What happens when you drink alcohol is that you will sleep soundly for the first 3 phases, the 3 main phases. When you get to the last phase, your REM phase, somehow your cycle gets broken and you do not enter into a long REM phase. So your first one, you might sleep through because it's only a few minutes long, and you go on to the next cycle, but by the next one, it'll be cut short. So that's why you'll go to bed maybe at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, but you'll still wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you've had some sleep, but all of a sudden you're wide awake.
Yeah.
And this is the trouble here, because in normal, everyday cycles for everybody when they're sleeping, that point between REM sleep and the phase 1 of sleep, when you're going back onto the next cycle of sleep, that's the point when you can be disturbed really easily, and it's really difficult to fall back asleep again. So that's anybody. Okay, so that's taking alcohol out of the equation. That's everybody has that thing. If you're disturbed at that point, it can be really hard to fall back to sleep.
Right.
So if you're thinking about it, if you're having alcohol and that chemical in your body is making you not have a full REM sleep and it's waking you up at that point, then you're unlikely to move on to the next phase. It's going to be harder for you to fall back to sleep again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I remember that. I used to go to bed at whatever time it was. Sometimes I couldn't remember because I was drunk, obviously, and I would wake up at about 3 o'clock. Usually it was 3 o'clock every morning. I called it the 3 a.m. terrors because you would wake up in a panic, your heart would be racing, you'd be like, oh my God, what did I do last night? Did I put my kids to bed? And then you'd feel guilty and you'd start, worrying and hating yourself, or you have to go to the loo because, you need a drink, or, and then it would just all go from there. And then you couldn't get back to sleep again. And it was just awful. I remember it well.
Yeah, it's your comment there about having to get up and go to the toilet. I mean, alcohol is diuretic as well, and it also dehydrates you, so it makes you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet. Yeah, that's just the way it is. And then you will want to drink more water because you're thirsty. So again, that's going to disturb your sleep as well. So it's really hard to get that solid sleep. And then you were saying you woke up in that panic and your heart was racing. Well, yes, because your mind was active at that point. You're thinking, you're trying to file all those thoughts, aren't you, at that point in your mind, and you're getting woken up at that point with a jolt, going, oh my goodness, something's triggered it, you've woken up. You might have been having a nightmare, or anything could be going on, and that feeling especially at that time of night is horrible, because it's such a lonely time. And I was talking to you earlier that I've also experienced sleep loss through withdrawal, and my withdrawal was from a prescribed opioids-based painkiller that I was given when I was in my early 20s to compensate the pain I was having with chronic illness, and I was undergoing some operations at the time. And I know that it affected me hugely when I took it. It gave me, when I took it, I'm not very good at taking meds, but I knew that it was going to help me to sort of calm down and be less anxious about things. Perhaps didn't take away the pain, but it certainly made me feel as if I could cope with it a bit better, or so I thought. And this period went on for a good year or so. And like I was saying earlier about your becoming more dependent on things that you take, and you build up a resistance to the impact that it has on your body. This medication did the same to me. So I started off with a really small dose and ended up increasing it over that period of time. And by the end of the period where I'd been through my operations, and I decided that, it's really not killing any pain, it's not doing anything for me, it's time for me to come off this medication. I spoke to my GP, and they said, look, you can't just come off it overnight. You've got to sort of wean yourself off, you've got to lower the doses. So I did, and didn't think anything much of it. Was going through this with, taking less tablets each day. And I got down to, and I'll tell you, this tiny little half a tablet. And it was that tiny little half a tablet that almost beat me. It was the smallest dose ever. But what it would do was that little half tablet would make me fall asleep. And without that little half tablet, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning and not sleeping and wide awake and feeling panicky and just beside myself. I felt completely, my body just wanted to, I don't know, run about. It wanted to do things, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, you just can't do that. It just felt so unnatural. And yeah, that went on. So what I had to do was I would stop the pill, right? So I'd stop taking it. And again, I wouldn't sleep, right? So for the first few nights, I didn't sleep at all. I just sat in my bed. So I got ready for my bed as I normally would. I sat in bed and I was like, okay, sleep, sleep. And I couldn't because, you know, my brain didn't have that little half tablet. It didn't have that wee pill to make me go to sleep. It was so
Yeah.
dependent on it. It needed it. And I thought, this is
Mm.
crazy. And logically, I'm going, oh, for goodness sakes. It's only a wee tiny little white thing. And I couldn't get my head around the fact that this was causing so much disruption in my life.
Yeah.
And it went on for a few days and I kept giving in. But eventually I had to have that conversation. My mum helped me as well. I'd actually gone home at that point just to get help from the support of my family, because I knew that it was, you know, I was recovering from operations and I knew that I needed to come off this drug. So it was just a case of, well, we're locking you in the house. That's it. You're not having it. And I remember staying in my room really for about 3 days. I was not nice to be near. I was like vicious. I was horrible. I was teary. I didn't sleep. I was, you know, agitated. My muscles were not right. I felt I had paranoia. I thought everybody was looking at me and talking about me, and it was horrendous. But it was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Because it took a few days of that to then start to sleep, just for a short time, and then eventually it built up and built up, and within a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, I was able to sleep a lot longer, and things in my body were beginning to readjust and become normal again. And my brain was no longer dependent on that little tiny white tablet just to send it to sleep.
Yeah.
So it makes me concerned as well when people come off of one thing and perhaps they look to find something else to substitute for that. So for example, if you are cutting back on your intake of alcohol or medications, whatever it is, then a lot of people tend to reach out and try sleeping medications.
Yeah.
And I feel personally that that's like substituting one chemical for another, and it could just bring about the same habits. So although I know that you need to certainly seek advice when you are coming off of something that you're dependent on, you must look out and get advice. I strongly recommend you take that advice and also look about to see what else you can do to try and get your sleep back in order before you reach out for any other medications and chemicals.
Yeah. And I bet when you got in after that, you know, period of 2 or 3 weeks, when you got into a routine again and you started sleeping longer, I bet that you felt absolutely amazing and relieved, didn't you?
I felt proud. To be
Yeah.
perfectly honest, I felt so proud of myself because I actually remember going back to my doctor at that point after I'd come off it, and you know, this was a different doctor than I had, because I'd been in England and then I'd gone up to Scotland to be with my family to come off this and to recover from my operations. And so this was a Scottish doctor, and I had asked my doctor in England, look, is this, you know, it's an opioid, am I going to become addicted to it? Because obviously my background in neurotoxicology and pathology, I was like, I kind of know a bit about this. And he went, no. There's thousands of people are on this drug. You'll be fine. But when I went to see my doctor after coming off of that tablet, he actually, up in Scotland, he actually congratulated me, and he said, that's a really hard thing that you've done. He said, I know people who are just on it for years because they can't come off it. They're just stuck on it, and I prescribe it because they're addicted to it. And there's no other way around it, so I felt so proud and so relieved, and I felt free. I felt free from having to take a medication or take that chemical at certain times of the day. I felt free that it didn't have that control over me, that I was back in control, my body was back in control, and my brain was back. It was mine again.
Yeah.
It was an amazing feeling. And obviously when you do sleep better, you realise then that the sleep that you had through that time of being that I had through the time of being ill and everything, it wasn't real sleep, it wasn't proper sleep. I was still exhausted in that time. But then when you get your real sleep back, you can tell the difference, because all of a sudden you have the energy. You have days you wake up and you're tired still. Sure, you have those moments. I mean, that's just life. It all depends what's going on. But the majority of times, when you've had a good night's sleep, you just know. You wake up and you can cope with the day ahead, and that is one of the major things with coming off for me. Definitely, when I got my last phase of sleep, my REM sleep back, I was able to mentally be able to cope with things the next day. You go through all these things in life, and at the time, again, it was ill health for me, and I was trying to balance my health with a mortgage, and I was getting married, and obviously I had the information of my condition as well I had to take on board. There's a whole lot of things that I had to deal with at a young age, and I wasn't coping with that. So when I came off the medications, when I came off that dependency of that chemical, I felt that I could cope with so much more. And I was a better person to be around, most definitely. A good person.
Oh, that's so inspiring. And I know exactly what you mean in terms of me coming off alcohol, because just waking up the next day, obviously it took a couple of weeks to get back into sleep. And that's a thing as well. People sometimes give in because they can't get past it. But really, it is only a couple of weeks. Generally, it was for me, definitely. And then after that 2 weeks of kind of, not being able to fall asleep, maybe waking up early or in the middle of the night still. But when I did, have a full night's sleep again, it was just like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And that's what I try and tell people and encourage people, because after a good night's sleep, you wake up in the morning and it is just the best feeling in the world. I remember when I was struggling, my husband would say, just think of the morning and how you feel. And that's what got me through. It really did, because it made such a huge difference having a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, you can cope better with the day ahead, for sure. But it is that sticking point with a lot of people. And as you know, I faced it myself. I honestly think that it's such a big hurdle, because, as I mentioned, 3 o'clock in the morning is such a lonely time.
Yeah.
And that was one of the hurdles for me, for definite, because being awake and just everybody else is asleep. Maybe I didn't feel like I could wake anybody up and say, I'm wide awake and I'm feeling like this, and I'm feeling quite low at the moment, and I'm feeling, I'll never do this, and I'm having self-doubts, and I'm having fears, and I'm also like this because my body's wanting some medication to calm me back down again. It's such a lonely time, and you do feel at the time, oh my goodness, I'm never going to get through this.
Yeah.
And that's when you want to reach out for whatever it is you're taking to calm yourself back down and to restore that normality. But it's just having that strength, and it takes a lot. It does. It takes a lot of inner strength and commitment to get and to push through that.
Yeah.
But once you do, it's so rewarding.
Yeah.
You're free. As I said, it's that complete feeling of freedom. There's nothing that can beat that feeling. It's just wonderful. And if you're doing that for yourself, because you've got to do it for number one first, just think, if you can do that for yourself and you can be that better person on the other side, think about the impact that that's going to make, not only on your life, but everybody else's life around you. Exactly. Think about, those relationships that you can build and you can have fun with. Think about the things that you can do the next day because you're not tired. Think about the fact that you'll have energy to go for walks, for exercise. You'll be able to take up things that you love to do, extra hobbies. You know, you won't just be going to work day in, day out, doing the same things and sitting in front of the telly. You'll be actually thinking, you know, I've still got a bit of energy left. I want to go and do something else, something of interest. And you can completely build a different life. But just by trying to get over those first couple of weeks. You know, that is it. Like that 3 o'clock in the morning, that first few days. And if you've got somebody that can be there and support you, that's obviously, you know, that is really one of the main keys. If you have got a supportive system, even if it's the next day and you can talk about it, then you know that is key.
Definitely. And getting through that period, as you just said, can, you know, lead on to so much more in your life. But people struggle with it. They struggle, like I did, with falling asleep. And you mentioned earlier on that sleep is, you know, our natural cycle. So what can we do to help to get us back into that natural cycle after we stop drinking or taking prescription medications, whatever it might be?
Yeah, sure. So once we've moved on from this chemical dependency, we are still perhaps not in the best routine, and because most of us aren't, let's be honest. You know, whether we are drinking alcohol before bed or not, most of us just don't treat sleep the way we should treat sleep. We don't treat it with importance, as we said earlier. So it's important that we start to recognize that we need that sleep. So that's the sort of the first hurdle. Recognize that sleep is important for our health and being alive and the best person that we can possibly be. We need that. It's a core thing. Think about what you're doing during the day. So okay, so we're taking alcohol out of our system here. We're taking that, we're removing that. That's gone. We're thinking about any other chemicals here. So if you smoke, you have to limit that consumption of nicotine for sure. Just try to get that down as low as possible and stop it completely if you can. Other stimulants like sugar as well, really in our diet, not a good thing to have. Especially at the later point of our day. It's just going to make us, provide us with that energy. It's going to make us a little bit more hyper. You know, kids, what they're like when they've got a whole bundle of sweeties. They're just non-stop. So we're just exactly the same. So try to limit the sugar intake that we're having, and also caffeine. So this is another chemical that is a stimulant that we all have through cups of teas, our Coca-Colas, or coffee, obviously. So try and in chocolate, another thing, a whole lot of caffeine in chocolate. So try and limit that. I try to drink decaffeinated drinks. So decaf coffee is my thing. I know when I've had a proper coffee, I just like, well. So if I'm going to have anything with caffeine in it, I try to have that in the morning. So nothing after lunchtime. So no caffeine after then, because I know that it affects me later on in the day. And it just upsets my system. So I don't want anything to do with caffeine later on in the day. So that's one thing you can do. Also, positive mindset during the day. We're all in that sort of habit of talking ourselves down during the day. And if we go, oh my goodness, I'm not looking forward to my bed tonight because I'm probably going to wake up and I'm probably not going to sleep and I'm going to probably be grouchy the next day. You're just telling yourself exactly what you're going to do. You're telling yourself that you're going to not go to sleep and you're not going to, you know, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night and you're not going to be in a good mood the next day. You're sort of predicting it. Don't. Tell yourself that I'm looking forward to my bed tonight. I'm looking forward to that time to relax. I'm looking, you know, forward to that restful period for me and for my internal system. So start with just small things like that. Now, when you get closer to bedtime, that's when we need to start looking at our habits, and that's when some of the big changes happen to our habits if we address small things. So what we want to do is we want to think about not eating such a heavy meal before bedtime. So think about something that's a bit lighter so that we're not going to bed completely full up. We would like to have some snacks, and that's sure, but just be conscious of the snacks that you're having. Make sure that they're not something that's really heavy and not easily digested. Your digestive system does work overnight, so you don't want to overload the system. Just let it. Yeah.
I had cake last night before I went to bed.
Well, you've got sugar there, so that's not so great.
Yeah.
But then you've got some carbohydrates in there too, and it's not too heavy. So, but yeah, if it's laced with chocolate sauce, then you're putting in caffeine as well. So just be careful with what you're eating. Obviously things like cereals before bed are pretty good. I know not everybody loves porridge. I like porridge, but I like porridge. Also, things like nuts and seeds and beans and that, or a light pasta meal or a light rice meal. And also bananas. Bananas are fantastic for loads of things.
Write that down. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They're brilliant. They're great for reducing stress as well. So they're great relaxant, bananas. And they've got the components of magnesium, the tryptophan and the melatonin that help to boost your sleep as well. So yeah, I've got an exam coming up in a few weeks' time, a music exam, and I eat loads of bananas before going into my exams because I get so stressed. But they work. I eat bananas for that. Bananas for everything. So so think about that. Think about your water intake as well. We don't want to be dehydrated, but don't drink too much just before going to bed, or you'll end up taking loo chips all night. And think of that time before bed as a chill out time. Look forward to it. An hour before your bed, you should be starting to wind down. So the television goes off, the phones get put away. If we're going to be reading, then we read like a paper book. We put those ebooks away. We put our tablets away, and we start thinking about the light that we are bringing into our brain. Our brain doesn't know whether that light is natural light or whether it's fake light. And so obviously our natural light triggers rhythms within our body to make us be awake. And when the lights go dimmer, it starts to send that process, and it starts to initiate the chemical response in our body to initiate sleep. So if we are shining those lights right in our eyes before we're going to bed, then our body's going, it's still daytime. Why should I go to sleep?
Yeah.
So try to get rid of those devices at least an hour before bed. Try to dim lights. Do things like take a shower. Do your self-care routine. Just have some stretches. Play some music. If you're playing some music, play some nice soothing music. Nothing, that's going to stimulate your senses. A lot of people go into that whole trick of watching television before they go, right up to the moment they go to bed, and they'll be watching dramas or films, and these programs are there to stimulate your mind. They're there to engage you and get a response, and engage the senses in our body. And if we don't give ourselves enough time to recover from that and to start to relax from that, then we're going straight into bed with our mind and our whole senses like completely alive. So we're not going to switch off. So really think hard about that hour before bed. What can you do in that time to start preparing yourself for the sleep and for the next day? Think about what nice things you can do to look forward to. As I say, you might want to go for a nice bath. You might want to use like aromatherapy oils in your bath. You might, I don't know, you might want to put on a face mask or whatever it is, just think about wee things like that. And then one of the big things as well that we need to do, which a lot of people don't even think of, is give ourselves enough hours to sleep. So we've been talking about the fact that we need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Well, if you rock up to bed at 12 o'clock at night and then you've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're not giving yourself even the hours to sleep. And if your sleep is disturbed as well, then it's just kind of it's just mounting up, isn't it? It's just causing another problem. So allow yourself, work back, say I need to get up at 6, so I need to go to bed. And set your timer to maybe go off maybe a timer on your phone to signal, actually, I need to now start preparing to go to bed. So that when the time comes, say 10 o'clock comes, you need to be in your bed by 10 o'clock, you need to be sleeping by 10 o'clock, then you have made that process from 9 o'clock at night. You've gone through your self-care routine, you're feeling a lot more relaxed, and you're in bed, and at 10 o'clock, you're ready to sleep. So it's more of a system that's in place, and your body loves routine. Most of us hate giving up into routine, but our bodies love routine. So those are the big ones, I'd say, definitely.
I love that.
What to do during the day,
making it kind of special and something to look forward to.
It should be.
I mean,
I mean, we all enjoy a good night's sleep, and we need to just accept that it's going to happen. We need to give ourselves permission to go to sleep. It's essential for us, so why shouldn't we make the process, enjoyable, rather than a chore? Oh God, I've got to go to bed now. I've got 101 things to do. No, we've done what we need to do for the day. Let's go to bed now. That's it. We've got an hour. It's part of. It's just like setting aside an hour each day to exercise, or to I don't know, whatever else you've got in your routine, whether it's walking the dog or making lunch, or we've all got routines in the day that we always stick by. Why can't we make this part of our routine?
Exactly. And I do that, what you said before about kind of counting backwards and think, okay, I need to get up at this time, so I need to go to bed at that time. And the other day I went to bed really early. It was like, I don't know, 8 o'clock or something. And I counted that I would have like 10 hours sleep. I was like, yo, this is amazing. I was quite excited to go to bed. I didn't go to sleep straight away, but
because your internal clock was telling you that normally I fall asleep at this time and I wake up at that time. So going to bed earlier doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get sleep, but you will get rest. And you're taking, you're sitting there with your legs, you're elevated, so your blood pressure is getting that chance to go down. You're relaxing your heart more, your respiratory system's recovering, your muscles are relaxing. It's a good thing to do, just to relax before saying, right, I need to sleep. So definitely, brilliant idea.
Oh, cool. I think we've talked about loads. So the main takeaways then is that obviously alcohol is so bad for your sleep. When you stop drinking alcohol, then you're kind of going through withdrawal, aren't you? So you will probably suffer and struggle a bit, but know that it won't last forever. And try and make bedtime something to look forward to as well. Make it special, make it personal, just make it lovely. And the benefits will come. So just very quickly, what are maybe your top 3 benefits of having amazing sleep?
Well, firstly, your health. That's got to be the first major thing. You are allowing yourself to be healthy and function the way you need to. I managed to, as I said, to lose my weight that way because that was what was the stress response was in my body so high that it was making me keep the weight on. Because that's what happens. You store fats and everything else that comes into your body. So that's definitely one. Another one is that you can function better and make better decisions in the day ahead. So you are, you're less likely to make rash decisions, and even physical mistakes as well. So if you're operating machinery or driving a car, you're more in control, and you're less likely for that to happen. And the thing is when things like that happen, these days are like one bad thing happens, another bad thing happens, and another bad thing happens, and it goes round and round and round. So getting enough sleep really definitely helps you with with that, and also allows you to look ahead. So not just from moment to moment and sort of be in a survival mode. It lets you look ahead. So the third thing I would say would be that it has a positive effect on our relationships. So getting more sleep makes us feel better in ourselves. It gives us more confidence. It makes us feel more self-assured, and we're less grumpy. You know, when we haven't got sleep, you know what it's like. People just don't want to be near us. They sort of back off. They go, oh, she hasn't had any sleep today. We don't want to talk to her. You act like you're a really grumpy teenager. You're like, oh, I don't want to talk to you today. I don't want to do anything, you know. So they back off, and that can have a really detrimental effect on relationships. But if you are, you know, full of life, if you feel relaxed in yourself, if you love yourself, and you have that internal self-confidence that results from having a good night's rest, then you are able to, you know, present yourself better to people, and they will be attracted to you. So they'll want to know you, they'll want to chat with you, and get to know what's going on with you. So that really has a great effect, you know, in your family life as well. It's those that are closest to you tend to get the worst of you. Because you're relaxed with them, so it just comes out, and you see it as it is, and that's the way it should be. You know, you should be able to, you know, be free with people that you're near with, but there is a limit to how much they'll stand. So if you can sort of heal that feeling through getting better sleep and correcting that fact that you're getting more peaceful sleep, then you know you're in more control of your emotions, and you can connect better with people and relate better with people. So it's a huge positive. So I definitely, relationships, you need relationships in your life, you need positive ones, so definitely that one.
Oh wow, it's so interesting. I love talking to you, Gillian, and I love talking to you about sleep, and I wish that, you know, we could carry on talking forever. And maybe we could get together and talk again.
Yeah, sure.
But in the meantime, if anybody, and I would encourage you to check Gillian out, if anybody wants to know more about sleep, about your experience, about your book, where can they find you?
Sure. So you can come over to clarityjunction.com. So that's my main website, where there's a whole lot of podcasts and blog posts there about different things. But there's also a tab there that says sleep. So it's right up in the menu bar. And if you click on that, it'll take you through to my details about my book. And it also leads to more resources for sleep. I've also got Clarity Junction. If you go to clarityjunction.com/sleep MP3, there's a free download for guided sleep meditation. So that's something that's really helped me in the past to help fall asleep. So again, part of that self-care that we were talking about before going to bed. And also when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you need to try and switch back off again, I find that meditation has huge benefits for me to do that, and it's helped so many other people that I've spoken to and have helped. So there's a free meditation there that you can download that I used myself. So I've recorded it, and it's there to download there. So that's /sleep MP3. But yeah, that's where they can find me. I'm also on Facebook under Clarity Junction. And I am on Instagram as well at Clarity Junction.
Okay, so if we just
lots of places.
Clarity Junction.
Clarity Junction, you'll find me.
Yes, yay.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Gillian. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. You know I could talk all day on this subject.
Yeah, me too.
So it's just great to chat to you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thanks.